Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling a feeling that's, well, incredibly common, but often feels really isolating. The experience of being lost or, stuck in life. We've been looking through your source material, lots of reflections and insights on this very human state.
Yeah, it's that really peculiar situation where on the surface, things can look perfectly okay.
Right?
You've got your routine, life seems normal, but underneath, there's this persistent feeling of being off kilter, maybe, like you're just bogged down.
Chuck in the mud.
Exactly. Or just running on autopilot while it feels like everyone else is moving forward with some kind of purpose.
Mhm.
You just feel like you're standing still.
Yeah, that internal disconnect from how things look on the outside. So, our mission for this deep dive is really to get into that source material, pull out the core insights, the practical ideas it offers for, well, navigating this feeling. Let's unpack it. The material captures that internal state so vividly, doesn't it?
It really does. It zooms in on these moments of maybe not clarity, but sudden confusion. Like it
Wow.
describes sitting in your car before work, just staring at the steering wheel, and the thought just hits you. Is this it? Is this really how the next 10 years are going to feel?
Oh, yeah.
That little jolt where you recognize, maybe just subtly, that you might be off course.
That specific image, I remember reading that, it really resonated. And the source also uses that analogy, the one about being lost inside a huge maze, feeling confused at every turn,
Mm-hmm.
asking yourself, am I doing the right thing here? Is this my path? Or one I just sort of fell into? And yeah, that feeling that everyone else seems to have the map, but you don't.
But what's interesting is how the source frames it. It makes it
Yeah.
clear this isn't necessarily about failure, this feeling of discomfort,
Mhm.
of being lost.
Yeah.
It's not presented as like an endpoint.
No, quite the opposite.
It suggests it can actually be a powerful turning point.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. That moment you stop, you sit in that confusion, and you ask, wait, what am I doing? The source seems to say that painful moment is often the start of clarity.
Right. The beginning of figuring something new out.
So why do we get off course? If we look at that, the material points to, well, a pretty core reason: listening too much to external voices.
Yeah, all those voices, parents, teachers, friends, even just opinions you see online about what you should be doing.
What success is supposed to look like.
Exactly. And all that noise can just drown out your own signal, your own inner knowing.
Right. The source talks about this as your inner compass.
Yeah, that sort of guidance system, your heart, your gut feeling, your instinct, whatever you want to call it. And the point made is, if that compass gets even a little bit off, just a few degrees,
Over time.
over time, yeah, you can end up miles from where you were meant to go, following a path that maybe it looks good on the outside, maybe it's impressive, but it just doesn't feel right deep down.
That example of picking a college major is spot on, isn't it? Choosing something that sounded impressive, but you didn't actually like it. And then years later, you've got the degree, maybe, but you're left feeling confused, maybe regretful, because you followed someone else's idea of what was good.
Which brings up a really critical question the source seems to pose. How often are we actually checking in with that inner compass?
Are you doing this because you want to? Because it lines up with something inside? Or is it because you think you're supposed to? The source really hammers home that understanding that difference is, well, it's crucial. Your voice needs to be the loudest.
Okay, but then the source acknowledges something else. Once you start trying to tune into your own voice, something else often shows up that, frankly, most of us try to avoid.
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty, yeah. We're kind of wired to want plans, aren't we? We want clear answers, control. Not knowing what's next feels unsettling, deeply unsettling sometimes.
And yet, the source really challenges that avoidance. It suggests maybe uncertainty isn't something to just fear and run from. It could actually be reframed as, well, a gift.
A gift, how so?
Like it provides that essential space you need to actually pause, to think, to explore, and maybe rediscover what genuinely matters to you.
Ah, okay, I see. There's that specific story in the source about someone leaving a job with no plan B at all.
Right. Feeling totally exposed, maybe even like they were making a crazy move.
Yeah, but that period of uncertainty, as scary as it was described as being incredibly fertile. A time for growth, for reading, for quiet reflection, trying new things, just learning.
So instead of seeing it as just an empty void, uncertainty becomes this open space.
Exactly, an open field maybe.
Mhm.
When things aren't all mapped out, that's often when your curiosity can actually come back. You become more open, trying different things, listening more intently to yourself and the world. It's presented not as chaos, but as this space where magic happens.
That liminal space.
Yeah, between what was and what's coming next. So the invitation is just to try and stay open, stay curious within that uncertainty.
Okay, so you've started listening inward. You're maybe trying to sit with that uncertainty a bit more. What does the source suggest focusing on internally? It's not about like making a new to-do list, right? Or adopting someone else's goals.
No, definitely not. It's about looking at what deeply, fundamentally matters to you. The source uses the term values.
Right.
And it's careful to say these aren't, complicated philosophical ideas. They're simple core truths about what feels important. Things like family or freedom, learning, kindness, health. Those are some examples given.
And the idea is that often that feeling of being lost or stuck arises precisely because we've maybe unintentionally drifted away from those core values.
Exactly right. The source gives that example of someone getting so caught up in, say, external ideas of productivity.
Checking boxes.
Yeah, checking boxes, being busy. And they stop doing the things that actually made them feel alive, like maybe writing or just having real conversations with friends. And then suddenly they look up and realize they've drifted way off from the things that made them feel like, well, like me.
So reconnecting with those values, the material suggests that provides a kind of directional shift. Even if the path ahead is still uncertain, you're now at least moving in a way that feels more aligned, more true to your own heart.
Yeah, not someone else's map.
Okay, so you have a slightly clearer sense of those values, your direction. What's next? The source talks about action, but not necessarily huge leaps.
No, it really emphasizes taking small, actionable steps. It grounds it really well, reminding us that big change rarely happens all at once.
Right, it's incremental.
It's built up through tiny goals, these small wins.
Yeah.
The examples are deliberately tiny, almost, like writing just one sentence.
Or going for a 10-minute walk.
Yeah. Or even just on a really tough day, getting out of bed and drinking a glass of water.
They feel almost absurdly small sometimes, but the point is really powerful, isn't it? These little actions, they build a sense of movement.
Forward movement, yeah. A sense of progress. And that progress, even if it's just getting out of bed, it starts to build a bit of confidence.
Creates momentum.
Exactly. The material really stresses that change is step by step, day by day. And starting with one small, easy win, that's often the key to just getting the wheels turning again, getting unstuck.
Okay, so internal work, small steps, vital. But the source also acknowledges, look, some days are just going to be hard, really hard.
Oh, absolutely. Which is where the crucial role of support comes in, having people around you.
Yeah, that anecdote shared about having just one honest conversation with a friend,
Hmm.
where the point wasn't even advice, it was just being heard.
Just listening. Yeah. That made all the difference. It made the person feel seen, in their struggle.
Right. Sometimes the best support is just knowing someone understands or is just there, even quietly. And the source says this can come from friends, family, teachers, mentors.
Or even online communities, right? People sharing similar experiences. The main point seems to be you don't have to do this perfectly, and you definitely don't have to do it alone.
And there's maybe also that accountability piece when you share your journey, even a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. You start showing up not just for yourself, but maybe because someone else believes in you or is just kind of walking alongside you. The source really encourages reaching out.
Reframing needing support not as weakness, but strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is strength.
Right. Yeah.
And as you take those steps, big or small, the source also suggests something else, consciously celebrating them.
Yeah. We tend to wait for the huge goals, don't we? To feel proud. But what about acknowledging the small wins?
The quiet moments where you just kept going, even when it felt impossible. It's funny how we can replay our mistakes so clearly,
Oh, yeah. Vividly.
but we kind of gloss over those small, brave choices we make every day. Getting out of bed when you really didn't want to. Finally starting that journal. Asking a friend for coffee just to talk. The source frames these as milestones too.
I really liked that idea from the source about keeping a sort of lost and found journal.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Just making a note of the times you felt really stuck, properly lost, and then maybe later looking back and reflecting on what you actually learned or surprisingly found during that difficult time.
That's powerful. Because looking back, the source suggests you might realize you weren't quite as lost as it felt in the moment.
You were just growing.
Yeah, you were just in the process of growing, which really reframes the whole journey, doesn't it?
It really does. Even when life feels messy, full of what seemed like detours or wrong turns, the argument is those moments aren't wasted.
No. They teach you something important. They make you wiser, more resilient, More human, maybe.
Those difficult times weren't just aimless wandering, they were part of your unique path, leading you somewhere new, even if you couldn't see it through the fog at the time.
Yeah.
So let's try and bring this deep dive together. The feeling of being lost, being stuck, it's common, it's internal, even when things look fine outside. Often it's a signal, right? A wake-up call, maybe, to tune back into your inner compass instead of just the external noise.
Mm-mm. And navigating it involves, well, accepting that uncomfortable space of uncertainty, looking inward to get clear on your core values.
Taking those consistent, small, actionable steps.
And definitely leaning on support from others.
Yeah.
It seems like the journey isn't about finding some perfect map in the end,
No.
but more about reframing the messy parts as essential growth. It's about acknowledging where you are, sensing the direction your inner compass is pointing, even slightly.
And having the courage to take that next small step.
Yeah, just the next step.
So here's a final thought from the source material we wanted to leave you with, something maybe to mull over after this deep dive. Perhaps you can take a second, look back at your own story, think about a specific time you felt truly lost, and just ask yourself, what did I find there?